why is open source better? And the answer is, well, you've got the source code. You've got the source code in front of you. You, as a business person, can now make a business decision. You can make a business decision whether you're going to go back to the company that made the software in the first place and say to them, hey, I'd like to have this bug fixed, and I'll pay you to fix it. Or you can say, I can hire somebody off the street, or take one of their representatives. I can pay them to fix it. Or I can hire somebody off the street to fix it. Or worse come to worse, I can go home and ask my kids to fix it. And then once I've got the fix, I can pass that back to the company and hope that they put that fix in the next release of the software. But that's a business decision that I can now make. And without having access to the source code, I can no longer make that business decision. That business decision has been taken away from me. Now, I see some people out there with a little bit of gray in their beards and their hair and stuff like that. You may remember, like I do, that I'd forgotten this, I remembered it recently, that in the early days of computing, there was no such thing as shrink-wrap software. In the early days of computing, if you were a customer, you went out and you found a company that could write the software for you, and you said, here are the inputs I'm going to give you, here are the outputs that I want, you write the software. And after they wrote the software, it belonged to you, including the source code and everything else. Shrink-wrap software in volume didn't really come into the scene until 1983 or 84. Okay, that's the time this little stores started showing up with the boxes of stuff with a shelf that you would buy. So this is not a new concept. It's not a new concept of a company taking it upon themselves to create the software themselves. Just like free software is not a new concept. Because back in 1969, Digital Equipment Corporation had a user society that would send you software for the price of putting it onto paper tape. So free software isn't new, and the concept of business people setting their own destiny is not new. Now, so these people, so now they've got to the point where they say, okay, I have a bug, it's stopping me from going forward, but I can now make a business decision to fix it and move forward or not. That's one way of saving money. Because if they don't move forward with their project, then the project stagnates. Or they have to spend time in figuring how to get around that problem, and therefore it may cost them time and money in the implementation of whatever they're doing. Now, another way of saving money is the fact that the software works, but doesn't do exactly what they want. Packaged software, for the most part, only does about 80 to 90% of what people want. There's always that last little bit that it doesn't do. And so what you do is you train your employees to get around that. You tell them how to get around that last little bit. Or maybe the problem is not so much affected towards your employees, but worse yet, towards your customers. I say worse yet because you can train your employees. Nobody has yet figured out how to train a customer. And the problem with your customers not knowing how the software is supposed to work is the fact that if they make a mistake, this can cause things like they ordered the wrong thing, okay, and then that thing, they return that thing, and that means you have to restock that thing, and there's a restocking cost. They don't have the thing they need when they need it. They get pissed off, not at the company that gave you the software. They don't know that. They get pissed off at you. And so this is the thing, that if you could have the ability to change that software and make it do exactly what you want, you might be able to cut down on the training costs. Now, if you're a small business person, this may not mean much to you. But if you're somebody like GM, or if you're somebody like the US military, or if you're somebody like the state of California, well, maybe training all the people in your agency is a lot of money. And the fact that somebody has just come out with the next version of and and expects you to jump through hoops and install that and have to retrain all of your employees when the previous version was just fine for you, this is another example of training because you don't have business control over what you're doing. So, we've talked about saving money. Let's talk about making money. I need a prop for this. Oh, I've got it right here. This is a digital camera. Now, I used to have another digital camera, also made by Olympus. It was kind of neat in the fact that every time I took a picture, I couldn't do anything with the camera after that until the picture was stored on the media. So I would press the button, so at that point throw the camera away until the picture was stored because nothing else would happen. That was a single tasking operating system inside of that camera, right? It did one task and then went back and says, okay, what's the next thing you got for me? This camera is kind of nice. I can take one picture, I can immediately start to adjust the camera for the next picture while it's storing that. This is a multitasking operating system, or at least multi-threading, I don't really care which. But the operating system is more sophisticated than the previous camera. This is a way that an operating system can actually give you benefit to your product that a simpler operating system couldn't. And this is why you would say that the operating system and the source code of the software can actually help you differentiate your product. Let's take a look at embedded systems. Before the latest round of Linux coming out into embedded systems, there was basically one 800-pound gorilla in the embedded systems marketplace, Charles River Systems. They owned 30% of the embedded systems market. All of the rest of the market was made up of very small companies that owned 5 or 10% of the market amongst them, or each one. Each one of these companies wrote their own operating system. Each one of these companies, therefore, had to write their own device drivers. They had to write their own network stacks. Now, once upon a time in the embedded system space, it didn't make any difference that you didn't have a network stack because nothing talked to each other. Your refrigerator never talked to your microwave oven. Your washer never talked to your dryer. But in this day and age, things are starting to talk to each other. Your washer washes a group of clothes, says, hey, I got a bunch of wet ones coming towards you. Lets the dryer know, okay? Your refrigerators start to have things on them like, monitors or LCD screens so you can surf the web while you're opening it up to get your tuna fish sandwich and stuff like that. Yes, sir.
And of course, they're also driven to make things better.
Yes, and there's all the other things we talk about, peer review, things like that.
John, we should probably start tomorrow.
I'm almost at the end, isn't it? Use case studies. Business people love case studies. Almost everybody loves case studies because they don't like to be the first to do anything. So take a look at the Linux Journal, Linux Magazine, other Linux publications for case studies. Go to the various websites put up by the various vendors. They're happily putting little case studies up there. And see if you can find something that matches the person you're trying to convince. Now, one of the things that I would like to see happen is that groups like this, and believe me, from what I heard tonight, you guys are doing a great job. You're doing the install fest and everything like that. I would suggest what I've got down here is the XXXXXX breakfast. Call up your local government, invite them out for a breakfast one morning. Just meet with them, talk with them over a nice breakfast about open source software.
John, you mean before noon?
That's where I come in.
Okay.
Or you replace the accesses with other software groups like the PC group, or maybe you have a local software entrepreneurs group. Okay, we have one in New Hampshire called SWAN, Southern New Hampshire Business Person Software. Meet with them and become part of their group, part of their organization to talk about free software. Write articles. I can come and talk with you people, and I've talked with 150, 200 people. But if you go and you write articles, you can reach 10,000 at a time.